Hello, welcome to the Comics Project. I'm here today with some Starcross folks. Luke, right here. I got Joe. Say hi, Joe.
Hi.
We got Gary, the Starcross creator. There he
There he
is. He's got video back now. Thunder Snow.
Hey,
is Andre.
Heyo. And Overlord Thunder Snow. Which one is you? Is that both you?
They're both him.
yeah, because I'm operating on a separate Cintiq, so I can't really do both of them at the same time,
Oh wow. Okay, cool.
or I have to do them at the same time rather.
And then we got Bill.
Yo,
Here comes Bill. All right, so let's get started. What are some of the things you guys are working on right now?
Um, what am I working on right now? It's interesting. I heard somebody talking about doing indie books, and he was saying, um, since indie people do everything, they do the marketing, they do the production. They say, when I'm doing marketing, production stops. And
right.
when I'm doing the production, there is no marketing going on. And when I'm doing marketing, nobody's working the mailroom, so no books are going out. And then he's like, then nobody's checking the finances. So every time you switch to a different job, the other job ceases. So it's like if somebody all of a sudden says, how come Joe's not posting anything? How about he's not talking about whatever books were? Because I'm drawing. And then when I'm doing a lot of marketing, they go, yeah, I haven't seen Joe draw anything for a while because I've been doing a lot of marketing. So it's always like one thing has to completely stop for me to work on something else.
So that's why we don't see God very often, right? It's because we're
Yeah,
too busy
exactly.
trying to
As
sell
soon as
our
I start
comics.
pumping that out, you're gonna say, how come there's a whole bunch of spots that are lacking all of a sudden? But I'm working on biblical proportions. Got that script done, and Brian is working on drawing it. I'm working on coloring Crazy Nine. I'm working on hopefully getting Origins, a biblical source book, off the ground with Luke's help if he
Yep.
chooses to. And then
Started working on that already.
we got a lot of other projects like the team up issue with Trash Man and Starstruck. We got my God number 2, and I think that's a lot right there. Also doing the star charts, the Starcross Comics source book. I think we're a bunch of us are doing that. So it's like the Marvel Universe handbook where you got your character and then you got their file on everything about them. So I'm doing all my characters in that, and then I think Bill's doing one, Luke's doing one, and basically anyone can do them. And so that's what I'm working on right now. All those things.
Switching out my headphones because they're like,
Barry, you're doing Killer of Kings, right? Number 2.
Yes, sir. I'm working on the second issue of Killer of Kings. Um, Learning the coloring aspect and how to use digital medium a little more. I'm more of a traditional guy, so everything I did for Killer of Kings 1 was pencil and ink and brush and paper, and I think and I know you guys did the digital stuff for me, so I'm um, getting really in depth with trying to figure out this digital stuff, and it's a lot easier for coloring and shading and inking and everything. So for the most part, everything about it is pretty okay.
digital
Uh,
definitely has its bonuses, but I think the biggest bonus for traditional is when you go to cons, you have extra, you have something that a lot of other people don't. That's original art.
right.
I actually ran into a digital artist that had a solution to that. He printed off his inks
Okay.
on 11 by 17 and then wrote one of one and initialed it. So I've been trying that. Of course, this coming up in September is going to be like the first con I've done in like 3 years. But
Okay.
the last one, I actually sold original art at that one, so that was pretty cool. So,
Yeah, everybody's doing a lot of conventions lately. Luke, yours is coming up. Bill,
mhm.
you just did one. Brian Dawson just did one, and Ken just did one.
Yeah.
And then you guys have a lot of Kickstarters going on too.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of crowdfunding going on.
Yeah.
I got like 3-4 days left of one.
Yeah.
No,
And
no,
Bill?
more than that. 5 days, six days.
Bill, did yours just start?
No, I'm starting mine. I'm waiting for Luke's to end, then I'm going to start
Okay.
mine.
And then you're working on, Bill?
I am working on Tribulation Task Force Secret Files, which is going to be the Indiegogo. And with that, there's a bonus book that's going to go along with it with villains. Then I'm working on Tribulation Task Force Parables, which is an anthology book, and that's going to start out with Thief in the Night and the story that Joe wrote with the Silent Knights.
Nice.
And I'm also working on Tribulation Task Force #1.
So you got a lot going on right now.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with like, I've been trying to do marketing and get conventions set up and all this other stuff. So production on everything else is kind of like stopped because, you can only concentrate on one thing at a time.
Right.
And do it well.
Yeah, I call Bill's book Triple T. It's like he's working on Triple T. A lot of Triple T stuff coming out.
It'd be quadruple because it's the.
Yeah, no, the Tribulation.
Oh, you're counting
the
that.
Tribulation
Task
Task Force.
Well, had you not stolen Watch, it would have been Tribulation Watch. I love that so much better.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's cool, right?
Yeah, he took Armageddon Watch.
Yeah.
You can still use Watch. That's fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, maybe after Armageddon Watch is over, I'm going to change the name.
So now, Gary's book, I want to point this out because, I'm a fan of almost all the books that we have at. I'm a fan of all of the creators that we have at Starcross, but some of the books, like, I think are kind of underrated, and Gary's book, Killer of Kings, is one of those that I think is completely underrated.
I agree.
Yeah.
Based on what?
I think the art is great. I think the story, like your first issue, grabbed me, dude. When I read that, I'm like, I can't wait for #2.
Really?
And
I saw it on the site and bought it because it has such a cool look to it. So
it does.
I agree. That's one we need to push more.
Yeah, I've got the digital copy, but I'm fixing to get the hard copy. But I need to get a hard copy where you've signed it because I want your signature.
Here's not signed one right here.
I'm telling you, that is such a good book. I like the premise. I like the kind of the story behind it. I like the action. If anybody stumbles, for the like 6 or 7 people that will stumble across this live video and watch it, once it's either whether it's live now or later down the road, like a couple of weeks, check that out. Go to starcrosscomics.com, get Killer of Kings. That is a great book.
Oh, well,
buy the rest of the books too, but definitely you got to check that book out.
Buy cool. Everything. Buy it all.
Yeah, you got to check them all out. But I love that. But yeah, Bill,
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man, it's good stuff, dude. You're working really good on that stuff. I love it.
One of my favorite characters is Akai.
No. He's gonna be a nasty dude, man.
I like him a lot. He's like one of my favorite characters. And then I seen the cover to the issue 2, and there's that another big dude.
Oh,
I don't know who he is.
It is so much cooking, man. That wait, I can't wait until we. I can't give too much away, but I can't wait till we get more involved in the story of how the Kings start dropping off, and to see them ramp up security, and the story has to get dragged out to the point where it's do or die time for a lot of people, where it's not even there's no way around confrontation. Put it like that.
Oh yeah. So, I like that you're pacing the story out well. I did a short video a week or so ago on pacing in your script. So the comics project we're trying to do here is give people information on how to start a project, pitch a project, finish a project. It's easy to start, but it's really hard to finish. I don't know if you've got, I think that's been the hardest part for me is finishing something, is being able to get to that finish line.
Killer of Kings is like 20 years in the making. You know how projects I scrapped,
Aren't they all?
and
Yeah.
Joe wouldn't let me quit on this.
Yeah.
Joe has got the gift of encouragement. I don't care what people say.
You know, Jack Kirby says finished is better than perfect. I have that on
Yeah.
my wall. Right here.
So I think one of my favorite here. I like that. I could share my screen, but then I would have to, because we're live right now. We're streaming, so it makes it a little easier if I do this. Can you see that? Check out the art in this page,
Oh, yeah.
man. That is freaking sick. Love that, dude. Yeah, but such a cool story, and who's lettering your next book?
I couldn't even tell you.
I think I lettered it. Apologies.
I think Joe lettered it. I almost did nothing but send him words and images.
Yeah, but
I
who's
never
lettering your next
professed to be a
book?
good letterer.
Who's lettering your next book?
That would be me learning. But I'm guessing Mr. Luke Stone is gonna letter my.
I think I'll letter that book, man. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. And I'm excited about getting into it. I really am. And Bill, man, I'm excited about the cover for that new that new cover. So explain to me a little bit more about what it is that you're. So you've got an anthology.
Yeah, it's 3 books.
So you got 3 books coming out that you're doing Kickstarters for, right? And Indiegogo's for.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Tribulation Task Force Secret Files. It's going to be on Indiegogo.
And what is that? What is the Secret Files?
It's kind of like short stories, bio pages, a whole bunch of different stuff, fleshing out kind of the universe.
Oh, okay.
It's almost informational, right? It's like,
yeah, there's biography pages, there's story pages.
So kind of like a Star Charts plus.
kind of.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. And then the anthology book's going to run at the same time on Kickstarter while the Indiegogo's going.
Okay.
So I'm going to try to do the 2 at the same time and then swap them.
All right, and then the anthology. How many pages is the anthology?
24.
24. Okay.
Yeah, there's 2 stories in that one.
Awesome. And then you're also going to be doing Task Force number 1, right?
Yep.
Which that'll actually get us into more into the story from off of 0, right?
Right.
Cool.
And the only reason I didn't go to that one immediately is just that the other 2 were pretty much done already.
Oh,
So
right.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I figure I might as well put them out.
All right. Overlord Thunder Snow.
Hey,
Man, I love that screen name.
What are
you working on, man?
I stopped drawing for like a long time, and then I saw that the Comic-Con was coming to town, so I was like, well, I got to see Joe and the gang down there. And it kind of inspired me, just seeing all these comic book artists. So I was like, I better get back on the horse. So I finished this page that I basically left off, and I'm kind of back.
Plug your site, Andre.
I got a webcomic on planetthundersnow.com. And yeah, so I've just been plugging away, and I've been drawing again. It feels pretty good when I got the time to do it.
Yeah.
Real life seems to get in the way quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, my stuff's so hyper detailed. It's like I got to put aside a couple hours just to do a little section.
Yeah. Yeah, Andre fills up like every inch of the white space on his
He really
page.
does. He's inspired me to be more detailed in my pages. So
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
no, because it like took me like 2 days to finish a page, and I'm normally like a page a day or like
Yeah.
2
that's
pages a day.
good. That's a good thing.
But yeah, okay. Here, check out this cover for the Triple T Parables. Look at that. And that's sick right there. Is that Thief in the Night? Is that his
Yeah.
name?
That is.
Man, I'll tell you, that is the coolest picture of a hero on a cover. That like reminds me like Batman level like awesomeness. Who did that cover for you?
That's the artist who does one of our other Starcross books, Frontera.
Okay.
Is that's the name of it? Frontera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is that who did that?
Yeah.
No way. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Huh.
And the colors are by Federico
Okay.
Psyoc.
So he did the pens. Was that pencils only?
Penciled and then colored over the pencils.
See, Gary, that was a penciled only cover.
See, I like that. I need to figure out how to do that.
Yeah. Well, the guy who colored it is a good colorist, so
he's phenomenal.
I mean, yeah, but I mean,
he did the color of Killer of Kings
of yours, yeah, same colorist, yep. But I'm saying like those guys, if you're a really good colorist, you can color over pencil. If I tried to color over pencil, it would be a mess.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, he did a great job with that. Which is
you gotta wait a little longer for him though.
I don't have good luck with inkers, so
yeah.
I'd like to just have it go right from the pencils if possible.
Mm-hmm. And
PlanetThundersnow.com, check out that.
Right.
Yep. So I had a couple topics maybe we can talk about. First one is plagiarism in comics. I don't know if you heard this a few weeks ago about the House of X or something like that, where they're kind of rebooting this timeline.
A great book, by the way.
It's a great book.
Yeah, but
I like a lot of Hickman's stuff.
You do or don't?
I do. So like, I don't like all of his books, but I like. Okay. He puts out a lot of books, so I like half of them, which is huge.
I didn't like his Avengers stuff, so it was really convoluted.
I liked East of West, and I liked his. I think I kind of liked Manhattan Projects, and then I liked. He does a lot of weird stuff. I'm liking the X-Men, House of X and Powers of X, and he actually. So for the longest time, there was this book called God is Dead, and I just took it as like, oh, screw that book, And I accidentally was seeing the inside pages, and I was like, oh wait, this is really cool. Actually, it's like modern time, and all of these like pagan gods just start coming into our world. We're talking Thor, Odin, all those gods, Shiva, all the Hindu gods, all the Aztec gods, all the Native American gods, and it's just like, and they all are warring against each other, and people like army guys and like they're like in the middle, like how do we not die from this, almost like a zombie apocalypse, but it's all these deities and they're warring with each other. So like the Aztec gods fight against the Native American gods, and like one of them loses, and now they're there, and then the Hindu gods come in and they wipe them out. But it's like 15-page battles, and at the end only one side is, and then I think it ended with the Norse gods still standing. I lost track, but it was cool and like just fun seeing that just for kicks, I honestly don't know if they had Christian gods in there, but it was mostly like those other gods. I don't know.
Yeah, well, now you've heard that House of X is eerily similar to the First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. Have you heard this?
I heard a little bit of that, but I didn't know what they were talking about. That it was.
Yeah, so apparently one of the characters in House of X that played a smaller role in the past is now playing a larger role with like kind of this power of reincarnation. And that with the ability to remember a previous life, which is really falls in line with this book that Claire North wrote. In fact, and now it turns out that I guess DC is also doing a very similar storyline. Rob Liefeld actually did a post the other day. It was like, hey, someone needs to just hire the lady that wrote the storyline, the first one, to work for you guys because she's amazing. And so the book is pretty amazing. But this, so that controversy also brought me. I see that Disney has like some problems with some plagiarism. Some people are claiming that. Now, in comics, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Like how similar to another story is too similar?
Right.
Well,
Well,
go ahead.
I mean, I've encountered this in a kind of reverse way. So let's say me and some of my other artists will be going, hey, we're gonna do this story and it's this, and I create this whole thing, and someone else is like, yeah, let's do this and this and this, and then literally, 6 months later, there's a movie about the same thing we came up with out with no influence whatsoever, and we're like, everyone's gonna think we copied this movie. This movie's doing that, and I've always told my fellow artists, forget them. We know we came up with this on our own. We shouldn't have to change it. Just keep going. It's not going to be exactly the same. And if anyone's like, hey, is that just like that one movie that just came out? We're like, actually, we came out with it first, and they can buy the book or not. I mean, so I've always encountered it in the opposite way where we have this theory that when you get an idea, it like flows around the world, and then other people get that same idea, and then they get it, and then all of a sudden everyone's talking about that topic or whatever.
Have any of you guys been plagiarized?
I
No.
wish.
I wish. Bill said I wish.
I actually, when
I've
I was
had
deep
people
into
steal
my,
artwork, like where they've used artwork for that I drew for other things. I don't know if that's the same.
when I was deep into my drawing, I heard about Google you could upload your picture and it would scan the internet to see if someone was using it. And nobody was using any of my pictures, and I got kind of sad. Like I went all like anxious. No one better be stealing my stuff.
I'd love to
It's
see
like,
someone
nobody wanted my stuff.
I'd love to see someone trace one of my works. I think that'd be awesome. Like, because you can kind of tell when someone's like, oh, what they've done is they've brought a digital picture in and they, traced over it. And I'm like, one day if I ever see that, I'm like, that's awesome.
Someone did that to me.
They did?
So you guys remember Lost, the show?
Yeah.
So I drew Locke from Lost. He's on the island. He's got his knife out, and then the smoke monster is behind him, and was on DeviantArt. And then one day, I don't know, it must have been, and this was back when Lost was a thing. I typed in Lost because I was looking for other Lost artwork and see if anyone did anything cool. And I thought my picture popped up, and I go, wait, it looks weird though. Someone badly traced, because they couldn't ink, badly traced exactly my picture and colored it, same colors, but badly. And I clicked it, and it said, oh, this is locked from Lost. But they didn't say, like, they literally traced it off of everything was exactly the same. And I reported them. I was like, that's not cool. You could at least say, like, I don't know, I drew this off of this person's picture or something like that. And then DeviantArt took it down. But I was kind of mad about that. Just kind of like, why would you do that?
Now, I think that's a huge difference to like using like pose references and stuff like that, and kind of like not a copy, but like holding it up and trying to draw it and stuff like that. Heck, before digital, that's all we ever did is like, okay, how do you draw that? And get pretty good at drawing those kind of things. But I kind of get where people come from, like doing some of those things, but.
Well, they're cracking down at conventions now because it's the big thing. You go on the internet, pull off a couple pictures, make some prints, and so there's people with whole booths of just stuff they've
that blows my mind.
Yeah, can't believe it. So yeah, I was kind of wondering how close is too close for you guys? Yeah.
Well, I always tell people it's like if somebody wants to copy your character. I mean, they can get extremely close to your concept. They can get extremely close to your characters. Look how many Supermans are out there. Like it's a Superman character. And DC has tons of lawyers, but they can't touch you if it's not. He can fly. He can have a cape. He can have an insignia on his chest. He can be, this white dude with black hair, but he can't also have a weakness to kryptonite. He can't also be from a similar planet to Krypton. He can't also be a reporter. He can't also have heat vision and the same powers. That's the difference. You can't have everything the same.
Yeah.
It's also kind of a reason I don't read a lot of comics outside of like when I was growing up, because I don't want to accidentally see something and it sticks in my mind, and then like 20 years later I'm drawing it.
Yeah.
That's a good point
thinking
too.
it's my own.
Yeah, because I think sometimes there's like the almost like forgotten plagiarism. It's like, well, I know that influence was from somewhere. As a musician, I'll see this a lot of times. I'll start playing a riff. I'm like, man, that sounds, yeah, listen to this. And it turns out that it's something else that I had heard. And, I'm sitting there playing and like, oh, well, that's this such and such song. I'm like, really? It's like, I don't even listen to Katy Perry. How is that? How's that a Katy Perry song?
Well, God must be pissed because most of our books are ripping off the Bible. So.
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
Well, I like being influenced by other things. I like seeing a movie or looking at someone else's comic where I go, oh, that was cool. They show a lot of background shots. Maybe I need to start doing background shots in my book. Or, oh, look, they had like 3 double-page spreads in a row, and it worked. I'm going to do that. So it's like copying, but just kind of being inspired to change something of yours, or go like, oh, Gary started his story like this. That seems like a good way to start a story. I'm gonna, or Luke did, he ended his page like this. I never thought about that, but no one would ever know I got it from Luke's last page. It turned something on my mind where I'm like,
he knows now.
I could do something like that. Like, it just inspired me. Or sometimes I'll look at I did the color scheme of GOD I seen this 1940s airplane poster. And I was like, look at those colors. And it made me come up with the whole concept of how the book was going to look. So, you can be influenced by anything.
Yeah, I think definitely, drawing inspiration from someone else's work is totally cool. I mean, I love it when people draw inspiration from mine, if they do. I'm hoping one day someone does, I think, and they can say, hey, I drew inspiration from this. And I'm like, that's awesome. But, so I've kind of coined this term hybrids to describe an ancestor of the Nephilim for my books. And it's something that, star-crossed people, I'm like, yeah, use that. It's all ours to use. But I heard another indie creator the other day use that term to describe a similar character that he had created.
Where does he live?
We're not going to name names on this on this one right here, but he lives in Fantasyland. Let's just put it that way. And it would upset me if I thought that his stuff would go anywhere, But I'm not worried about that because it's, there's a lot of hype around what he's trying to do, but there's not a lot of depth to it. So
I'm pretty sure there's not a lot of, the world's been turning for lots of thousands of years, and I'm pretty sure there's not a lot of originality, but I try to at least craft such an original story that if plagiarism did happen, it would almost be blatant. Like Joe said, there's so much. Superman is such an archetype character that it's hard to not mimic Superman in some way. You throw a cape on a guy, and instantly, to a 5-year-old, he's Superman. Colors are, no matter what if he has black hair and insignia on his chest, that's Superman. But the story for me has to be crafted in such a way that in order to lift from the source material, it's like, this has to be based on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree with you completely, and I don't think anyone will try to say that Gary has plagiarized someone. And if someone writes a similar story to Killer of Kings, then they've definitely copied your work. I've never seen anyone like anything quite like that. I kind of feel the same way about Bill's work
Yep.
and Joe's work, and even Ken's work. You know, like we try to be really original with what we're doing. But
I mean,
yeah,
we're all influenced by stuff, like, you know, the artists we like, the genres we like, be it sci-fi movies. If it's very sci-fi heavy, you might go, "Hey, that reminds me of Blade Runner. That reminds me of Terminator." And you're like, "Well, those are two of my favorite movies," and it might be something like that, But it's all influences. I might watch an anime and go, "Wow, my next issue, I'm gonna put tons of action in it because I just got really hyped about all these cool action scenes," and that might inspire me.
well, I'm not even gonna lie. One of my favorite superheroes is the Hulk, and so there's many times you will see Trash Man and like that seems very Hulk-like. I'm like, well, yeah, because he's a brick, giant, got muscle guy, and I love the Hulk. So there's going to be, in fact, sometimes when I'm writing for Antonio to do my layouts, I'll write very Hulk with higher IQ. So it's like so that way he knows like this is a kind of a Hulk type scene to do, and in fact, even for the trading card that I did for Trash Man, he did the pose is very like Hulk looking. I'm sure Hulk's been in that pose before. Kind of reminds me when I started drawing. Actually, one of the things that I did was the Secret Wars. One of the issues of the Secret Wars has the Hulk under this big bunch of rock with his arms out, holding up the earth, saving all the heroes. Man, when I was little, I would put paper over that and trace it, until I got used to how to make those lines. Then I would sit there and draw it to where I could draw that cover. I could probably draw that cover right now from memory because I drew it so much as a kid, And so it's kind of some of those things where you do it over and over and over again. It's like, man, why do I keep drawing him in this pose? So I find like I'll draw Trash Man in about the same pose all the time, or Chlorine will be in a pose or something like that. But that's a good segue though to kind of my next topic that I wanted to talk about today is we all have some of those stories that just mean a lot to us through comics. It's like one of those things that really connected with us, really got us into reading comics and wanting to make comics. And like we would consider it the most important. Like, hey, this is to me is the most important storyline in comics. Do you guys have anything like that? And if you do, what is it?
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Ah, good. Why?
That was one of my, well, no, actually, the first comic I really, really got into that I thought was super cool was Secret Wars. And then, or did Crisis come out first? One of the two. But it was so cool to see all the heroes together and their fight, you seeing these interactions between all these characters. That was it for me.
Ah, yeah.
Crisis was just so epic.
Well, and it was also the first time that they put together all of these stories. They said, okay, well, this is happening on Earth A, this is happening on Earth B, and so for a while, that's how they could have these alternate storylines that people were writing and telling. And this was the first time where they crossed over and had all those together. Like you had like early Flash with the hat, with the the weird helmet, with New Flash, and those kind of things. So that was kind of a neat way to do it, and that was kind of epic. It was, I think,
George Perez. I mean,
George Perez, the dude's amazing, isn't he?
He's sick.
I'd say Secret Wars is like a big influence.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the X-Men, like the Marauders storyline, where heroes were actually dying, and that was like a huge thing back in the day.
I agree. That was epic. It made you want to get the next issue. You couldn't wait till the next issue came out.
Right.
No solicitation, so it couldn't get spoiled. So you genuinely weren't sure what was going to happen.
A big one too was Savage Tales and Conan. They were like the oversized issues.
Oh yeah.
The art in those was just amazing.
Yeah.
Great stories.
I would have to say Secret Wars is one for me. I kind of mentioned because it's one that got me interested in comics when I was a kid. So that one meant a lot to me. I like the idea of all these heroes working together. and kind of trying to fight towards the same goal. That really stood out to me, and I really
For
like that one a
me,
lot.
for me, it wasn't necessarily a story at first because comics are such a visual medium. If it doesn't grab you, you're less likely to pick it up and read it. Um, so Spider-Man grabbed me as a youngster.
Uh,
Spider-Man was the one that he was the hook at the end of the line, man. And I was just like, there it don't get no better than this. Like Superman could fly through a brick wall and go into space and knock a satellite out the air, but Spider-Man was like late for work. You know what I mean?
it's like this dude still has rent to pay.
Yeah, dude was late for work, and and he was late because he was being Spider-Man. So it's like
Yeah.
this is how the real world is. But the story that drew me in to trying to figure out how to write was Battle Chasers.
Oh, okay.
Battle Chasers was like, how do you? It was like a soap opera, man, because it had all of these different people with their lives going on, and then they converge, and it's like, how do you make all of this mesh? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and it hooked me. So that's what got me into writing, just that story. But what got me into drawing was Spider-Man.
Yeah. Spider-Man was always one of my favorites too. Kind of growing up. I mean, who couldn't like that? Here's this teenage guy.
Yeah,
I love the idea that people are like, oh, I love Spider-Man. Peter, you suck.
exactly, exactly.
That kind of always got me. Joe, how about you?
Is it what comic got you in? What's your favorite comic, or what comic set the
All of
stage?
the above, brother. All of the above.
Well, when you're talking about different epic books, I remember Kingdom Come. That was when I first got into DC Comics because before I was never interested. I would page through them and I just didn't like how they were written. And then Kingdom Come really attracted me. And then I started realizing how cool the DC characters are. Um, Infinity Gauntlet, that's another big one. Um, but the books that got me into it, I used to go to an old comic book store called Chet's, and he also sold like magic tricks and stuff. And he was this really old guy, and his store had all old comics, so I didn't even know about new comics. So I was getting Spider-Man team up with Ghost Rider, and I was getting like, the old Doctor Strange books. I didn't know any of the characters at this age, so I would just get whatever character looked cool. So I remember the first comic I ever seen was Daredevil, and he was fighting against what's his name? A Buzzsaw. That was the first comic I ever saw. But then I was just getting every comic I could get my hands on that had some cool characters. I was mainly into like some of the cool villains. So if Spider-Man was fighting a weird villain, I was going to get it. Or if Batman was fighting some bizarre weird villains. Like I wouldn't even like the standard ones like Joker or whatever. I'd get like, oh, he's fighting Null and Void. That's weird. Or I would get Hulk when he's fighting the UFOs. I was just into like really weird looking villains. But then I realized there's new comics, and then I started buying them. And this was a really young age. This was 9 or something like that, 9 years old, and then I was getting X-Men, and then I was getting all Jim Lee's X-Men, and I was getting you know Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man, and then when Image hit, I was all over that, and or the death of Superman, that was a big thing.
That was.
I stood in line for that.
Me too.
Comics were so much more fun when there wasn't previews, there wasn't the internet.
Yeah.
You didn't know what's going to happen 5 months from now.
I personally loved Wizard magazine. That was before the internet. Internet killed Wizard.
Yeah, it did. But that was fun when you didn't know what was going to happen. There was that anticipation, and you were waiting for the next issue to come out. I mean, now comics come out, and you go online, and you can read what happened in the issue. It kind of deflates that fun. or that aspect where you had to go out and search for back issues.
Yeah.
It was always fun to me as a kid, going to see what's, there's a new store in the area. Let's see what they have.
Yeah.
And hunting for things. Now,
and if you missed an issue and it's gone, it's just gone.
Right.
You just didn't get number 3.
I mean, now you go on eBay, you just grab everything. I think that's what's missing out of the comic fandom now, that kind of searching and looking for things, and everyone wants everything spoon-fed now.
Yeah.
Like they say, you have to have the comics have to be, entry level, so if someone's picking it up. Like, no, they are not. Shit, when we were kids, you didn't know what was going on. You went and found the back issues. You had some common sense, like something happened before. Let me go find out.
Yeah.
Everything's so on demand and dumbed down now.
And I prefer that. I like I'll pick up an old issue of something. I'm like, wow, I really like this story. It might be a 50-cent book from the 50-cent bin, that I went to the local shop and found. But, now I'm interested in this story and I'm wanting to read it. So now I've got to go find the rest of them so that I can finish the story.
Right.
And that's part of the fun, even though, some of these comics I'm collecting aren't, high end or something. But it's fun to try to get those stories. And I think a lot of people have gotten into collecting comics, but they don't even read them. Like, they don't even crack the book open when they buy them.
Right.
They stick them in a bag and a board, and they go in a box. They go in a long box somewhere. And it's like, that completely defeats the purpose of what this was about. Some of these stories were intended to make you think, and really to make you think, and to contemplate what was going on in the world. Like, for instance, when I asked this question earlier, Joe had mentioned one of the most influential stories, I think, that he thought was The Watchmen.
Right.
That was the first time superheroes were showed to be human, really, like really flawed human, not just like human like Stanley would write with some of these guys, but like seriously, truly flawed,
I know Brian had mentioned Dark Knight Returns.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Frank Miller's.
Yeah.
That was the first time. I mean, not the first time, but that was when Batman became dark.
Yeah. See, that period in comics I didn't like.
Okay.
The Watchmen kind of came out at the same time as Crisis did, so a little after Crisis, and it was like, DC is this company that's, hopeful. People love their superheroes there, and then here comes this crap, and they've, turned Batman into a jackass, and you have these running around, and they're just, horrible people, and that really, I think, that really made comics just take a wrong turn. All that stuff, those wicked creators. There's something wrong with those, like Alan Moore and his satanic crap. And it really just infected comics.
I mean, I can like some of their stuff, but also dislike a lot of their stuff. It depends for me. I think Frank Miller is really genius. I mean, I like Sin City. I
could do without him. I think he's a jackass, and I think Alan Moore is a jackass.
I mean, Alan Moore is his own thing.
Bill, just tell us exactly how you feel about it.
Yeah,
conflicted with sharing his feelings.
Jackasses.
Bill, you keep too much bottled up.
I know, it's terrible.
Just come out with it already.
Anyone ever finds this, they're gonna be like, man, I just don't know. Bill just is like he just. I don't know how he feels about anything.
No. He keeps it all inside.
Like, guys, remember, these are comic books. They're so self-important. You get a guy like Grant Morrison, and he's talking about, this philosophy of this and that. It's like, dude, they're superheroes. Shut the hell up, story, and go away. I don't want to hear about you having magic and daydreaming.
Yeah.
Just write the damn story.
It's a comic book, man. It's, and that's the thing. I think right now we see a lot of people hating each other over comic books.
Yeah. Oh God.
Let's
not even get into that.
It's a comic book. People are doxing people and showing up at their house and threatening their kids. Dude, it's a comic book. Chill out.
Yeah.
Be good to each other, and read comics.
Blame it on Ethan.
Yeah.
Or should I say Caesar? As they're all calling him now.
Blame it on whoever you want to. The fact is that I think that we're at Starcross, and let me segue into this.
Okay.
I think at Starcross, we're trying to do something different. And these epic stories, I mean, yeah, we're no Stan Lee yet. Who knows? You know, we aspire for big things. You know what kind of reminds me of a great quote from The Office. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Agreed.
But, you know, I think that what we're trying to build here is pretty awesome. So we have some pretty epic stories happening inside of each one of the comics themselves. So obviously Bill's got a lot going on with his books, Triple T, the Tribulation Task Force. So he's got a lot going on there. Gary's book is kind of pre-flood. It's kind of like before all of our books take place, but still great storyline. A lot going on there. It's going to be a big epic story. There's five of us that are creating a universe that is shared. So Bill is involved in this. Joe, you're involved in this. Ken Keller is involved in this with Red Talon. And Carrie King, is that right? Mm-hmm. Carrie King is involved with it with Phantom Lion. And then myself. And so what we're doing is we are creating...
Gideon.
What's that?
You forgot Gideon.
No.
Bill.
I hope he's watching.
Somebody mute Bill.
Literally nobody's watching. So I'm keeping an eye on it there. It's like we've had like 0 people come to watch it, but someone will find it. And then they will get really mad that you picked on the Caesar. And then someone will dox Bill.
Yeah, right.
They will come to Bill's house and Bill will let them have it. And that will be the end of doxing. Did you hear someone got shot when they tried to dox someone? Yeah, they went to Bill's house.
Ethan sent me his card.
That's awesome.
There's his phone number. Doxing.
Good thing no one could see it. Speaking of cards.
You have cards?
Trash Man.
Ooh.
Look at that.
Uh-oh. They
Trash
came.
Man. They came, yeah. Look at that one. Chlorine.
Uh-oh.
Very cool.
Yeah. Look at this one.
I like them.
Got bone.
You got stacks of those?
I do. I got mad stacks.
Flip it. There you go. Uh-oh.
Yeah, man, these are like I'll tell you, these remind me so much of the Marvel cards.
Yeah,
like,
I love it.
Like these are awesome. It's like a self-indulgent.
Yeah. Awesome.
A truly diverse African American superhero. One of my favorite characters in my book.
You're pandering.
Yeah, of course I am. That's what I do. Ion, check this one out.
You went with the background on that.
There you go.
She's a villain here.
Very nice.
Next series, maybe not so
Love
much.
Love it.
So that's right. But anyway, we're creating this like huge universe of kind of epicness with biblical proportions. It's not just Starcross in biblical proportions. It's other studios as well, like other
companies too
are bringing their stuff in. So that's how big that is, because it requires that kind of epicness to do. So I mean, we're talking Infinity War kind of levels here. You know,
well, it's even more than what Marvel did, because it would be like if Marvel's War was also including Image characters and DC characters and Dark Horse characters.
Yeah. So that
would probably be the biggest of all time.
Yeah. What was that, Bill?
Wouldn't that be cool if they could actually cooperate and do something?
Yeah.
Oh man, it would. I mean, how epic would that be?
Right.
You know, to see those kind of crossovers. I would love to see Daredevil and Nightwing fight. Yeah, I would like to see them teamed up on something. Yeah, that would be really cool.
Never know.
And then the other thing we're doing is Armageddon Watch, which that is another massive crossover, and that's a little bit like Days of Future Past, or
future timeline.
Yeah, kind of a future timeline of a bunch of characters. And
sometimes there were some DC books where it was like DC 1 million, So they all took place in the crazy future,
Yeah.
and then that was a similar thing to like Days of Future Past.
Cool thing about Armageddon Watch, which will start releasing next year, is that it's referencing some huge event that is somewhere between what we're writing right now with our comics and when that takes place. And so we don't know what that huge event is. And in fact, probably one of us will wind up tackling that huge event in our timelines, in our story, or maybe it'll be another biblical proportion, another arc of that. Who knows? But I think that'll be kind of cool. So yeah, so there's kind of all these neat things that are there. So the coolest thing that I think that we're doing is that so Marvel can do these big universes because it's the Marvel universe. DC can do these big universes. It's the DC universe. You don't see things coming out of Image doing that. They had some stuff connected back in the day when it was Rob and the guys. But they don't really have a whole lot of stuff that's connected because there's a lot of indie creators, and so there's a lot of individual worlds and stuff like that. And so, to my knowledge, no other indie group is doing what we're doing because what it requires is that Bill and Joe and me and Ken and Carrie all share a little bit of our intellectual property and say, hey, it's cool that you use it. At least for this number of issues or for this or that, which is kind of unheard of. But it takes this kind of like we're leaning more into the story. What's that?
It's world building.
Yeah, world building. We're leaning more into the storytelling than we are just the intellectual property of the characters. So it's not really about the characters, it's about the big story.
If Marvel just consisted of Daredevil and the things that he gets into, it would be very small little world. But because also Doctor Strange is next door and all his adventures, and also Spider-Man swinging around and all the stuff he gets, it starts growing, and there's all this stuff happening every day. Not just the one time Daredevil fought this one guy. There's things happening all the time, so that building that's knocked down, that might be from Spider-Man's fight, from his book.
Yeah. So everything kind of connects. We have the ability to connect there, and so that's what we're trying to do is kind of build this like big epic world. And because I think honestly, guys, I don't think that you're going to see a lot of new original stuff come out of the big two. I might be wrong there, but in my opinion, they have a tendency to kind of regurgitate some of the stuff they've already done. They reboot a series or but they're not creating a lot of new characters. There's not a lot of new things happening. In fact, you see a lot of established artists and writers and stuff from those go off and do a self-publish because they want to have control of their own character. They want to create something new. Maybe they have a great idea and they really want to explore it. But you're not seeing a lot of that come from the big two. So in my opinion, I think the future of comic books is really kind of what we're doing, indie comics, and groups like Starcross. There's a couple things about Starcross that really stands out to me. Number one is that it has been around for 20 years, which is pretty dang impressive for an indie group. But the other thing that really stands out is that it gives voice to faith-based material as well as non-faith-based material to coexist with each other, which that's something that you don't see a lot of. But so for me, I think my opinion is I think the future of indie comics is definitely where people are going to find their kind of their new characters, their more diverse characters, and maybe what we're doing here will spark other creators to do the same thing and create these big epic worlds. Because I would love to read their stuff too.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah, and we're bringing new creators in all the time, but we're also, not bringing in certain creators that we don't feel is the right fit for us. So the whole thing is finding that right element to bring in that doesn't cause disruption, but then also is just an extra nice ingredient that goes well, but that we can get along, that they also have a product we can get behind, and it's just a perfect cohesiveness to the crew we already have together now. So we're not just trying to add, tons of creators, tons of books as they come. We turn down a lot of books that just aren't a right fit for us. But when that hits, we can just tell that this is another, kindred spirit just like us. and it'll work. I can tell right away when someone's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know?
And sometimes it's not that they're not going to work; it's that their project's not developed enough yet. It still needs some work. It needs to go through those paces. And I try to work with people that are interested in maybe looking at producing a book to help them develop their idea, and kind of put it together.
I think a big key is teamwork for Starcross. I mean, if you're not a team player, you're not going to last too long.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah, because, we can all work on our individual stuff, and we're only going to get so, I mean, thing is like you can make a louder noise when you all come together.
Right.
Someone might be looking at your one project, but they can see everyone's project, and they can see it's a bigger deal. I mean, if Marvel only had, Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was it, that'd be it. That's their one book. So you'd have to buy that or not. But they have so many books.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes you want to buy their other books too, because now you're buying all Marvel's books.
Yeah. I kind of noticed that when I had one book on the table at a convention, it was a lot more difficult to get attention than when I had multiple books on the table for someone to look at. When there was 2 or 3 different titles for someone to look at, or even now, with hybrids, when I first, the con that I went to, I had 1 issue of hybrids. I had 1 issue of a title I was doing called Worst Day Ever. And so I had just 2 books. Now, I went with a friend who was a part of the Tenacious Comics label at the time, and so we had his book, so there was 3, and then we had 1 other person's book that we took with us. So we had 4 books, and it still was like pulling teeth trying to get people to look at it. But I think part of the problem is because when they see independent publishers or independent imprints like this, they see 1 title, it's like, well, are they ever going to make a second one? Is there a plan for a number 2? And so I think it really bodes well, especially when people are looking at our catalog. And like right now, what we've got coming out in this fall, we have, Hybrids number 3 is out in September. There's an Indiegogo and a Kickstarter for that right now. I put the Indiegogo link down in the comments. Bill has a number 2 getting ready to come out, plus some compendium, some things that are kind of like companion pieces to his storyline that are coming out this fall.
Impro should be finished inking by the end of this month. Then it goes to color.
So that's going to probably be by the end of the year. That's going to be out. We've got an Indiegogo getting ready to go for Red Talon number 2. Gary, you're getting ready to. You're working on number 2 right now, right?
He's off right now. He had to go.
Oh, okay. His name's still up there.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
So
Frontera Flash of Dawn number 2 is being worked on.
So that's being worked. So that's going to be out this fall. Phantom Lion number 2, is that coming out?
Say it again.
Phantom Lion 2.
Carrie is. I mean, they're all written. Carrie is working on promoting his card game right now. The Ninja Brothers, but he's in between artists. He has his old artist and he has a new. It's the artist who was working on Captain Marvel for Marvel Comics. He was going to hire him. He might still be. He posted that on his site, on his Facebook. So depending on who he's going to use, he'll get back to focusing on Phantom Lion as soon as his card game is.
So maybe next year on that one. The issues 4 and 5 of Hybrids will be out by the end of the year. So I mean, 4 is I just finished page 10, so I got 10 more pages to draw. The colorist is already done with 4 pages of it, and so he'll finish up 5 pages this week. Probably more pages than that. He's going to be catching up to me real soon. So we've got a lot coming out. So the fall is going to be a really busy time for Starcross Comics.
Evangard number 2.
Evangard number 2 is coming. Yeah.
I got my list right here actually. So I got Hybrids 3, Killer of Kings 2, Biblical Proportions 1, Red Talon 2, Tribulation Task Force Secret Files 1, Tribulation Task Force Parables #1. We got Star Charts #1, Star Charts probably #2 and 3 also.
Yeah.
Starcross Team Up number
Yeah,
1.
that'll be out this year.
GOD #2, Avant-Garde #2. Then we go into the other future books that are kind of still being worked on.
Yeah, so I mean that's good for the reader. So anyone that the fans that Bill sends to the site to buy Tribulation Task Force, they're gonna see all these other books on there that they can get into, and the fact that a majority of these books are kind of connected, then it allows the reader to always kind of be diving into the storyline, into the world, because we're building a big world for them to enjoy.
Frontera is not in biblical proportions, but I talked to the creator and I had an idea for a cameo, and there's a scene where there's a poster on the wall that has the spaceship. It's like it was just going to be a spaceship, and I said, wait, that could be the Frontera spaceship from that book. And then he said, yeah, that would be cool. So Frontera makes a cameo, even though it's
a cameo in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fiction within the fiction.
Yeah. Kind of like how Mallrats is now part of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which that was pretty cool. I thought that was really cool of them to do as far as the cameo goes. For that might have been my favorite thing about Captain Marvel.
My favorite thing was I didn't watch it.
Yeah,
you're smart.
I am a Captain Marvel fan. I like Captain Marvel, and I thought it was just me. I'm like, oh, man, maybe I'm just a sexist pig. I don't know, but I don't like the way Brie Larson portrays Captain.
Oh, you mean
Marvel.
you like the character? You just don't like the movie.
I just don't like the movie and how
okay.
How Brie Larson portrays this character. She comes across more snotty than she does snarky.
That's just her.
Yeah, and I just didn't care for it. Well, I talked with another person, and this gal was a huge fan of Captain Marvel, and I said, had all the comics, and I said, so what do you think?
Oh.
And she's like, I hate it. I hate the movie. I hate the way Brie Larson has portrayed my favorite character.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, so I'm not off base there. I don't feel like she portrayed the character well, and I know that she signed on for like 7 or 11 more movies.
Oh.
And I'm not looking forward to seeing more Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. I'm just not.
You just rewatch the older movies.
Yeah, well, that's what we're doing as a family. We're going through and rewatching all of them all the way up to Endgame, and we're doing them in chronological order, not the order that they were released, but like what order they all happened.
Yeah.
And so we just rewatched it.
Like Captain America's first.
Yeah.
I've tried to rewatch them, but the movies are just so shallow. Like one time in the theater is cool, but I can't go back and watch them again. I just don't think they're that good.
Well, at least they did build up to something really big and epic, which is a lot better than what DC is doing.
Yeah, well, that's not too much though.
Yeah. Now DC, I think, as far as their comics goes and their TV stuff goes, is way better than Marvel. But Marvel, as far as the movies go, they're able to keep a character for long term, so that there's some continuity and consistency there, which DC can't do.
If you count Marvel Netflix like Daredevil and Punisher, that brings them up a notch.
It really does bring them up a notch. It does. But they canceled all those.
Yeah, I know. I think it seems like they're trying to bring the shows into the movies now. So then they launched from their Disney Plus.
Yeah. And that's what it is, because Disney wants to launch their own streaming platform.
Yep.
And so that's what you're getting with. And DC's trying to do the same thing
Daredevil
with DC.
And everything, yeah.
Now
I wish they would have been able to keep those actors, because
Now I watched Shazam the other night.
Yeah, sorry about that.
The family.
I liked it.
I didn't like it at all.
No?
It had entertaining bits.
It was very cringy.
But
I liked it.
It was kind of supposed to be, I think, cringy.
Yeah.
I would have reshot most of those scenes differently.
I'm kind of between Bill and Joe on this one. I was entertained a bit, but there was it felt disjointed.
Things bothered me. Like I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. This is going to happen. Like nothing surprised me. I'm like, okay, now he's going to go do this. Let's see how they do. Oh, they did it like that? Well, that was horrible. Oh, now this is going to happen. Let's see how this that's how they chose to shoot that, or have that flow. Okay, now the final battle is gonna. Okay, here we go. Why is it fizzling? Why is it? It went down. Now it's up. Like, where is my big finish? I want like the big battle, and like they kept pulling back what I was waiting to have, like the power,
The Shazam power, yeah.
yeah, it just kept subverting my expectations, and I was just getting frustrated.
But it was
I wanted
still
it to be
that,
awesome.
what I call the fake Captain Marvel, because that's what Shazam was called back in the day, was Captain Marvel,
Yep.
until Marvel trademarked the name.
Yep.
That Captain Marvel was better than the Captain Marvel movie I just watched the other day
Okay.
as well. So
Okay.
I still,
Okay.
in terms of DC movies, it was better. It was better.
Right.
It
I
was
loved
somewhat
Aquaman.
entertaining.
I thought Aquaman was DC's best movie.
Well,
I haven't seen that yet.
well, I mean, if you're looking at it from a story point of view, it really isn't that great.
No, so I look at it like an awesome ride. I had fun. I was thrilled. It was. So if I say if it was awesome, that doesn't mean it was on some intellectual scale of like a Batman movie or
It reminded me of a Ninja Turtles movie. You know that it's going to be pedestrian, but it's fun and
I thought
entertaining.
it was amazing. I thought it had such amazing visuals. I thought Aquaman was hilarious and he was a badass. I was thrilled every time he was fighting.
Well, we have to give that up to Jason Momoa. He made that movie. I'm telling you. Because up to this point, I was like, Aquaman
Mira,
sucks.
too. I thought
Mira
she was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought Mira was awesome. I mean,
I think
Black
almost every
Manta
guy on the
looked
planet.
Great.
I think almost every guy on the planet thought Mira looked awesome.
Now, see, I really like Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man.
That one was good too. Yeah, I really like that.
I don't like Spider-Man, but that movie I thought was just great. It was fun.
I'm telling you what, the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, it's like, but he's the bad guy. And I kept telling my wife, I'm like, but he's a bad guy. All of this is a lie. All of it is a lie. And then when it all turned out all of it was a lie, she was like, you ruined it for me. I'm like, read a comic.
I didn't tell my wife. So when he flipped and he was a bad guy, she was like, oh, what? And I was like, oh yeah, he's a bad guy. I said it after, and she's like, you knew that? I said, oh yeah. I mean, I was waiting for him to turn, but I didn't know when he was going to turn. But I loved Mysterio. I just didn't. I thought the movie was
I thought the special effects were really cool.
Yeah, they were.
I don't like Spider-Man as a character, so I went in with pretty low expectations. But that guy who plays Spider-Man is just the perfect actor to play Spider-Man.
Yeah, he does a good job. I wasn't real thrilled at first with a Mary Jane that wasn't a redhead.
Yeah.
But I like Zendaya. I really like her. I like that take on the character where she's not
really cute in the movie.
Yeah.
She's also on that this HBO show. I can't think of what it's called, but she plays, it's a real filthy show. So it's real weird seeing her play this little innocent character and then see her on this disgusting HBO show.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you on that one. Well, hey, guys, it is getting late. We've been on here for a minute. So we've given people a lot to ingest if they want to. We're going to be coming back with some reviews, hopefully this week, of some Starcross books and then some other companies' books, some things that we just like. So we'll be getting a couple of us will be doing some of those, and we're looking forward to kind of giving you the skinny on some fat books. So for that's all for tonight, though. Any last departing words, you guys?
Nope.
No. Check out everyone's site. Check out StarCrossComics.com. Check out PlanetThundersnow.com. Check out GrowComics.com and Luke Stone Studio.
Check out the Kickstarters and Indiegogos.
And buy something.
Buy something. And here I like to tell people this: just be good to one another. It's only comics. It's only comics. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. If you can't have fun with it, no point in doing it, right?
Right.
All right, y'all. We'll see you.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.